Let's open up the OG mailbag. Alongside Joe Giglio, I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios in downtown Raleigh. When we open up the mailbag, it's brought to you by the Butcher's Market. May I once again remind you, the MVP of the holiday break, Joe, Christmas and New Year's, the ham biscuits. You haven't had the ham biscuit yet?
No, here's the difference between you and me. And I love to go back and listen to our product and figure out what's going on.
You and me? We ain't the same.
Shouts to JC Zumble. He was over at, and our guy Webb Wellman over at the John Wall.
Yeah.
Our friend Calvin. CJ Leslie was there.
Your friend.
And JC sent me the text. You and me. We ain't the same.
Ain't the same.
So the difference between you and me, I go back and listen to the podcast and I'm listening to it.
I was terrible yesterday.
And no, but I listened to the part. I usually listen to like, what am I picking up on, right? And I try to think of it as like a out-of-body experience.
Yeah, sure,
right?
sure.
And I was thinking of that specifically yesterday about how you were like, and I even heard myself saying it to you, like, how do you find these great things? And that's the difference between me and you. You're willing to go and find and try new great things.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the butcher's market and I sound so basic.
Yeah.
But the truth is, the hot dogs are phenomenal. So you can call me basic, whatever you want to call me.
They're so great hot dogs.
Because they're phenomenal.
They are good hot
dogs. And I can't get knocked out of it, but I can see the looks on the faces of the people at your holiday parties when you bring them these goodies and they're like, where did you get this? The
Butcher's Market.
But you just have to be willing. That's the thing. I'm not even willing. I'm just so stubborn.
No, and then when you do, you then get obsessed with it. You have you have a special interest.
Right.
It's like you discover something. It's like the greatest thing.
And then all of a sudden,
like, this is the best thing ever.
I have made fire.
Right. That's kind of the general attitude. Let's get into this, shall we? All right. The first one comes to us from Timmy Ann. New year, same Joe's. I'm in the car with my teenage daughter. I tell her I'm going to listen to my favorite Triangle Sports Pod. And then Joe G starts in on his F-first bit. Thanks, Joe's.
Well, that was the only time I swore yesterday. And I'm telling you, it's a legitimate thing. Like, I didn't make that up.
I know you didn't make it up. You probably could have cleaned it up before you dropped.
I tried. How many different times did I try?
I know you didn't try at all. You just like, should I do this or not? I'm like, no, just do it.
Okay. I see what you're saying now.
And then you just like, well, you've heard of this F first. And I'm like, yes, I have seen that meme.
Well, it's not a meme. It's like an actual relationship advice thing.
Yeah. Well, it's my parents' 50th wedding anniversary today. My brother's in town. My brother's actually headed up to Eford Studios here in a second.
Oh, sweet.
Not to see me. He wants to see the bricks and minifigures store downstairs.
Oh, is that right?
I'm not shitting.
I know you're not.
He actually texted me today because he's probably landed by now. But regardless, he's like, yeah, I don't know why I want to do this to myself. I'm going to see all those Star Wars prequel Lego sets that I destroyed. I'm going to be mad.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's an engineer. He would build them and then break them down.
Okay.
So anyway,
he is also your father's son.
I
want to go do this to make myself feel a certain way.
Yeah, there is that too. He really don't tell him that because he's already mad at me for the whole millennial cringe thing about brunch, which is a very millennial thing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all this thing is just the thing that they're into.
All this is to say, it's my parents' 50th wedding anniversary today. We're all having a big dinner in Cary at this Italian restaurant, right?
Nice.
So should I be keen on what my dad's doing based on our conversation yesterday?
I mean, that's totally and completely up to you.
I'll report back.
I would
like if my dad's going after mozzarella sticks right out of the gate, and I'm like, all right, I know what's up.
I tried so hard yesterday. It was the only time I think I swore the entire episode.
It was.
But I see what you're saying. It wasn't the language.
No, it was
the subject.
Like right after, man. Speaking of which, let's get after it, shall we?
You've got mail.
Let's go to the OG Sports Phone. I told you yesterday, I essentially was saving up all the OG Sports Phone. Plus, I was curious as to what was going to happen with Duke and Ole Miss. And remember, Duke fans were mad at me yesterday because, you're talking about the thin margin for error and you're dismissing us. I'm like, look, man, all I ask is you go out and take care of business today or last night against Ole Miss because I need you to shut Lane Kiffin up. That's all I needed. It would have been a perfect night to dunk on the SEC with Notre Dame in 54 seconds, completely changing the nature of their game against Georgia. Shout out to Notre Dame. But no, Duke, I got nothing but excuses. Actually, I didn't get much on my timeline from Duke football fans, but I do give credit to Bull City coordinators who called in after a not so great bowl appearance against Ole Miss.
919-444-2211. Call the OG Sports phone and curse or don't.
Hey guys, this is Ben from Bull City Coordinators calling in to talk about the Gator Bowl. Look, obvious, I got to say, we let you down. We didn't shut Lane Kiffin up, and I'll take responsibility for that. The Bull City clan decided not to make the 9-hour trek to Jacksonville when the quarterback transfer news broke. And if Bull City doesn't show up, then clearly the Blue Devils don't show up. And that's on me. I'll own it. You can blame me for it. I'm sorry. I will take personal responsibility for it. But let's be real. Duke could not win that game. It was just not destined to be. Why is that? Because if Duke won the game, the Blue Devils wouldn't be just triangle good. They'd be actually good. And that would just throw off the whole podcast narrative, the whole brand, everything that y'all have spent this season correctly pointing out. And Manny's not going to do y'all like that. No, he's not going to treat y'all that way. So Duke had to lose. However, that doesn't really address the margin of victory for Ole Miss. And I could make a lot of excuses about that. I could point out, hey, Thielen, third-string quarterback, didn't have a lot of game snaps at all. Last year, he seriously injured his arm throwing a touchdown against NC State on that pass to Calhoun. That's why he only attempted 12 passes in that game. So very limited experience. Terry Moore gets hurt not long after that interception. Star Thomas is out because he's in the portal. All that's just, excuses that happens. It's hard to win when you're playing guys who haven't played a whole lot, but I think it's just more simple than that. I believe it was Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, philosopher, who once noted that sometimes you just got to take an ass whooping. Anyway, keep up the good work, guys.
Speaking of Manny Diaz, should I get him one of these that my dad got me?
Yes.
And it says Diaz, American made from the finest Cuban parts. Would you appreciate this hat? I don't know. I'll bring him one at ACC kickoff next year.
I'm not going to draw any conclusions on Duke's season based on what they did in the bowl game.
No.
I will, however, point this out, and thank you, Ben, for backing us up here slightly. You realize that, yes, Duke was state champions this year.
Mm-hmm.
Beat State, they beat Carolina, they beat Wake Forest. Ole Miss played Wake Forest.
Mm-hmm.
They played Duke. Ole Miss beat Wake Forest by 34.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Duke by 32.
And then Wake was like, yeah, we're done playing Ole Miss.
So when we tell you that we are defining something as triangle good, that is the very definition of triangle good.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Wake Forest on a walk-off touchdown, and they beat State by 10 points, who was the other team, and they can't play themselves, and they beat Carolina by a point.
Yeah.
Ole Miss comes in with all their money and all their talent and goes, I'm going to put my manhood on the table. See how I clean that up? And I'm going to beat you by 34 and 32.
Not put it in their ear, though?
Not in their ear.
Oh, okay.
Just banging it over their head on the table. Bang.
Boom.
So that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
Yeah, and it's fine. Duke had a good season.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
But that's
Duke
not
had a
about
good
Duke.
season.
That's about like the season that Duke had. Perfectly fine. Here, how about this? Look at this another way for Duke.
Okay.
Okay. Look at this another way for Duke. Throw Ole Miss out. Duke played let's put Georgia Tech in the same category. Duke played 4 games against teams with more talent than they have.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, State, SMU, Miami. They went 2-2 in those games. And they won. They took care of business in their other games except Georgia Tech.
That's fine.
Like, that's a really good year for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Triangle good doesn't mean you suck.
No.
It just means you're not a national championship contender.
It's taking care of business against the people in your region. That's really what it comes down to. And that's going to define how your year goes.
Likely losing every time you punch above your weight class. We've seen that with Carolina. We've seen that with State. It happens over and over. We've seen it with every team not named Clemson in the ACC.
Pretty much.
So
now, speaking of triangle good, who you beat, how it plays out, what makes you mad, ties in back to the Military Bowl and what we got the most calls about. But before we get into the NC State portion of the programming, here's a little ECU love.
I ain't trying to hear no shit about how it ain't a rivalry Y'all got your heart broke and tried to fight afterwards. It means something. It's a rivalry. Go Pirates.
Exactly. I'm with that. Here's another one from an ECU guy.
All right, so it might not be a rivalry, but you know what it was? A lot of fun. Just like college football's supposed to be, like it used to be. What a great game. Can't wait to see y'all again Labor Day weekend. Hope you get your towels out of a wad by then. Go Pirates.
Remember, that fight was all because of a stupid towel. Where's Bradley Chubb when you need him?
The messaging was so poor before the game from Dave, and I think Steve Logan was on with Steven Igo and saying, like, he basically said, I like Dave Doeren, but I can't believe he said that. And there's no value to it. You gain nothing by saying what he said before the football game. You gain nothing. So, you know, again, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. That was the entirety of the Military Bowl. Why would you fuel them? Why would you not understand what was going to happen in that football game in terms of ECU's want to pour out level and whatever you thought ECU's best effort was? That's what you were going to get. I do find it kind of comical, and we'll get into this obviously more. You realize ECU played two other in-state teams, lost to both of them. App State, they ran for 98 yards against App State. They lost by a bunch against Charlotte. They ran for 148 yards against Charlotte. Against NC State, they ran for 326 yards. Like, try and explain that one to me. And I only say that because there's a bunch of people today on Friday, January 3rd, who are like appalled or shocked or whatever about the number of defensive players going from NC State into the portal.
Yeah.
And I get it. Some of them have signed NIL deals or whatever's been happening since the end of the Carolina game or whatever. The truth of the matter is, NC State was bad on defense this year. No, not good. It was bad.
I know what the overall statistics were for NC State this year. They weren't good. I get it. However, game by game basis, they had their spots. They had their moments. You know, you don't beat Carolina without defensive pressure stepping up, Davin Van making a play or something like that. You know, the Wake Forest game, sometimes it's more about, end of game situations more than anything else, putting your team in the best position to win, which again, we pretty much covered that yesterday when you went on a very good rant about NC State and in-game decision-making and things like that. I'm just saying that to focus on the transfer stuff, there's a fan psychology there that I haven't quite been able to put my finger on it, but I think the portal stuff or seeing a bunch of transfers is another branch of the F around and find out, right? You spend so much time obsessing over what the other program is doing. And when you see a bunch of transfers, you go, oh, well, clearly the rats are leaving this sinking ship. Because when you see transfers, it means something's bad is happening to your program. Not contextualizing in any way. Trying to understand why you have these portal defections, right? So in this one with NC State, what are we wringing our hands about? Tony Gibson took a job.
Right.
So the guys who are leaving who were used to that defensive coordinator might want to go somewhere else. Maybe.
Certainly in play. You also
that sounds very plausible to me.
There's some unusual circumstances in there, like a Bishop Fitzgerald, junior college guy, didn't know he was going to have a year. Boykin, not knowing he'd have a year injury-wise. Like, there's some other explanations in there. But what I'm getting at is to blindly look at a list of players like, oh my God, I can't believe so-and-so is leaving. And it's like,
well,
the defense wasn't good.
You know what that's about, though.
The defense wasn't good.
That's about Dave. People are now just using argument. They're bolstering their arguments about why they have Dave to go, which we're getting into the folk. I want to make one more point about the ECU thing, though, because this was happening during the Military Bowl. Joel Anderson, I don't know if you're familiar with Joel Anderson. He was at Slate for the longest time, and now he's over with The Ringer, and he covers college football. Joel's a good dude.
Yeah.
I like his takes. And he sent out the screen grab that he was texting an NC State guy that he knows. And he tweets this out. He goes, oh, man, I missed that I called this earlier in the second quarter. And he shows this screen grab of a text. He goes, does it matter to NC State fans if y'all lose to East Carolina? Nope. This is the person he texted. Nope. We are ready for the season to be over, but it will sting to lose to ECU. Damn. And then he goes on to talk about how they're a little brother. And he's like, they're talking cash shit too. There might be a fight at this point. And of course, there ended up being a fight. And I responded to Joel. I said, look, man, What I love about this state, this gets back to the triangle good aspect, to kind of tie this all together, which is my point. And I responded to him and I said, look, I love this state when it comes to college football. Everybody is somebody's little brother, and yet they all finish with basically the same records. Pure, uncut, regional stuff that is now lost in the college football playoff era. And this is something that Joel ended up putting out there as I got him to think about it. And he kind of said the same thing. He's like, because he saw ECU doing the Wolves down right at the end of the game. And he said, to sort of borrow from Joe Ovies, it really is great to learn about these surprisingly heated regional rivalries you didn't even know existed until bowl season or the NCAA tournament. Who knew this was even beef, right? It is beef, though. You can roll your eyes all you want.
No. That who knew? Oh, the people who are here know.
Well, that's my thing.
And maybe not Dave Doeren, but everyone else knows.
Okay, so let's get
the single dumbest loss of Dave's life is to Scotty fucking Montgomery in 2016.
So,
are you kidding?
So you and I got into an off-air conversation, an off-podcast conversation once about Dave's general demeanor, right?
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this conversation or not.
You'll refresh me.
But I think this ties into the lament that exists right now, and where I think you and I will both kind of align here. And I think the big frustration with NC State fans, with Dave Doeren. I think this was after the Carolina game and after the whole flag planting thing, and you're just like, what the hell are we doing, man?
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, maybe that's why they've had so much success against North Carolina, in that they turn into, now if you're, hey, Timmy Ann, I'm about to curse here. They have to be assholes in order to beat Carolina.
Yes.
So that's been established. And the whole reason why NC State gets over on Carolina in the Dave Doeren era is that he has them Pavlovian trained to be assholes about Carolina. And I think that's a feature, not a bug.
Sure.
Okay. However, here's where the bug comes in. And what I have an issue with Dave. Okay. You're an asshole all day about Carolina, and I salute you for it because that's the edge you have over the Tar Heels in this rivalry. But when you have ECU, when you have Duke, when you have Wake Forest, suddenly the asshole gets turned off, and suddenly we have to be understanding. Well, it's this, and I had this, and I want to talk about these fall downs. What was the complaint that he had? I've never seen this before. What was the complaint in the earlier this year? Now, and it's escaping me, but he was basically like talking about timeouts or something like that. Anyway, the point is, there's always some sort of
the Georgia Tech clock operator.
The clock op. Thank you. Like all of a sudden, we're pulling out clock operator complaints. Like, come on, man. Like, what are we doing here? So you're this big badass when it comes to North Carolina, but every other time that something happens, you're suddenly finding some excuse rather than just owning it. Yeah. And the only time he owned it in recent memory was when they lost to Duke last year.
Yeah.
With the Henry Beelan IV, as Bull City coordinators pointed out. When he straight up said, like, yeah, man, we keep beating ourselves. That's our fault. That's on us. And then they went up on a decent run. So I think where you and I ultimately align, I think where a lot of State fans have a problem with is, dude, if you carried this attitude game to game and didn't pucker in all the other games, maybe things would go out a little bit differently. But as we've discussed, Dave is who he is, right? He is who he is. Let's get to the sports phone call, shall we? Let's go.
Hey, boys, it's Bradley from Newington. I'm calling before the game because I'm calling in the 252 area.
Yeah, real quick. Let me refresh this real quick. So we got a lot of sports phone calls. I took 10 of them.
Okay.
There were more. There were
probably an uncut version somewhere that we could.
There were a lot of
fans would buy them.
There were a lot of people who called back saying, I was a little too, I've thought about it some more. I'm like, no, we're getting that pure raw reaction. So I think there were 3 people who called back saying, hey, disregard those earlier ones. No, I'm not going to, because I want that pure raw. Okay. So I took 10 calls. The first couple were in real time of the game with the Military Bowl. And then there was this like immediate reaction after, and then I'm like, I've had some time to think on it. So I took 10 calls to just distill the point that NC State fans are done with Dave Doeren. If I can look at the Google Voice, I probably had anywhere in the range between 60 to 70 calls. Okay. I took 10. So let's get back to it.
Hey, boys, it's Bradley from Lewington. I'm calling before the game because I'm calling in the 252 area code in the heart of ECU country, doing what everybody in East Carolina loves to do, run deer dogs. And everybody I saw today, state fans and East Carolina fans, were pretty split. We all agree that Dave Doeren should be fired. So before everybody gets stepped up because he beat East Carolina, every state fan I've talked to in the last 2 weeks thinks he should be fired. So we don't have the beating a rival bias. But this is going to be a good ball game, and it seems that everybody in the eastern part of the state is excited for it. Thank y'all boys. Have a good show.
Ended up being an exciting game with an exciting finish, with a fight. Let's continue.
Hey guys, long time listener here, first time caller. Giglio, just so you know, I'm a rough and Garner guy. Live in Raleigh now, and Ovias, saw you in the Wegmans just before Christmas, I think. Didn't want to interrupt your holiday shopping, so I didn't say anything. Anyway, watching the state ECU game, and in the, I believe it was the second quarter when we had 4th and 1, NC State guy, by the way, when we had 4th and 1, the commentators are saying, hey, there's an opportunity to pass the ball here, and I laughed to myself and thought there's no way in hell we're passing the ball here. We're going to run up the middle. And we did, and didn't get the 4th down conversion. So then, as the state offense started cooking a little bit in the second part of the second half, or the second quarter, I thought of the old saying about Dean Smith being the only person who keep Michael Jordan under 20 points. And I was wondering, is Dave Doeren the only one who keep this offense under 24 points? Anyway, just thoughts. Thanks, guys.
It is weird that they seem to follow the pattern every game of, well, we're gonna play this way, we're gonna defend. It doesn't matter that we have the 99th scoring defense in the country.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We're magically gonna turn into the 85 Bears, and we're gonna kick 4 field goals, and then all of a sudden then you're down 14, and then you let the quarterback throw. Then all of a sudden you're winning, and you're like, well, why didn't we play this way before? But love that point about 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, knowing exactly what's going on. Yeah.
I thought you'd appreciate
12
that
years
one.
in.
Yeah, I thought you'd appreciate that one.
It's not the it's not the whatever. I didn't go there, so I don't know. So it's not Matt Canada. It's not Drinkwitz. It's not, Beck. It's Dave. Okay. Okay, it's Dave.
Why is this hard for people to understand? And look, that was the question going into this offseason, going into the season. Yeah. They were talking about all this offense, and now we're the ones that are in the position. And I'm like, all right, cool. But that means you have to coach your team a way that you've never done it before. You got to let it cook. And I'm telling you, the minute they went back to Grayson McCall, told me everything I needed to know about the rest of the season.
Yep.
All I needed to know.
So many mistakes were made.
All right, next one.
Hey, Joe and Joe, watching the third quarter falling apart display happening in Annapolis right now, and going to be honest with you, I've never really been full-on team anti-Doeren. That changes tonight. This is completely unacceptable. I get it. They have a new interim DC. They're not starting some of their stalwarts on defense and offense. It just doesn't matter. You have to hate East Carolina if you're the head coach of NC State. And it just seems like Dave Doeren doesn't. And to be honest with you, they're going to talk shit. I'm going to have to block every single person with a Greenville address in their bio if they have those for the next 6 months, and they've earned that. But this team is giving up. They gave up so much. I know there's a couple plays in the first half where, changes, you're tied at halftime, whatever. But this is as unacceptable gets. And maybe it's because we've beat Carolina for 4 years and we don't know what it's like to lose to a rival in recent memory. But man, this is not okay. The fact that this is happening in a bowl game shouldn't matter. It's just, I'm sickened. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and one more person in the anti-Dave Doeren crowd. Not that it matters, because he'll be back for the next 6 years.
For the next 6 years. And that was from a 619 number. Here's a number from 252.
Well, fellas, I'm calling from Annapolis. It's one of those first-time, long-time situations. I give up. Dave Doeren and company suckered me into positive vibes for this season. Didn't work out. I give up. I don't know what to say. Love y'all. Appreciate what y'all do. Positive vibes only, but I ain't got no positive vibes coming from me.
5 stars only. Positive vibes only. You know, give it a 1-star review to Dave Doeren, not us, please. Thank you. Thank you.
It all comes in waves, right?
Yeah.
The Boston College game 2 years ago is what really broke me for Dave. Like I thought he had the ability to win 10 games, put them in a position to do something that the program hadn't done.
Yeah.
You know, I thought his best teams in 17 and 18 were butting up better against better Clemson teams, right? Like there's nowhere he could go.
Yeah.
But 22, you realize, and then last year you realize how good Peyton Wilson was. And then you're sitting here going, last year I didn't blink an eye at last year. I didn't really blink an eye at this year. The Wake Forest game this year is the one that broke most fans that were in his camp. And again,
not the Georgia Tech game.
No, remember the Wake game at home, because it was almost like you resign yourself to losing to Tennessee and Clemson, which I would not excuse. If I was still caring about NC State football that way, I would be mad. You should be mad about Clemson and Tennessee. Of course. Those are the games you should be mad at.
Of course.
But most State fans were like, well, they're better. They spend more money. They're better than us. Then you play and lose at home to a Wake Forest team that's just not good.
Not the point, though.
That broke a lot of NC State fans.
Not
the Wake Forest game.
The reason why I say Georgia Tech instead of Wake Forest is because I think NC State fans who've been doing this for a long time understand that bad Wake Forest teams have knocked off good NC State teams all the time. It's
right.
I mean, you did an entire bit. You did an entire bit where you wrote a letter to yourself not picking this game.
Yep.
Okay. The Georgia Tech one was a classic Dave Doeren special, right down to the what are you doing all game long? Here's this fourth quarter where suddenly you're letting it cook, and then all the things that people are complaining about. I think that broke. And it wasn't like NC State was a ranked team and Georgia Tech was a double-digit dog in this game. That's their specialty. And they did it to NC State, right? So I mean, look, it could be semantics at this point when the whole season is the thing that ended up breaking NC State fans, including this one from a 336 number.
I'm driving back. Well, my wife is driving me back because I had quite a few. From Cary, Raleigh, I don't know where the fuck I was. Back to Alamance County where I'm from. I'm staying with my parents, having a delightful time. But I'm not having a delightful time tonight because I just watched the boiled egg of a college football coach lose to East Carolina. Do I know where East Carolina is? No. Do I know where Greenville is? No. Is that like the northeast part of the state? Is that near Virginia Beach? I have no fucking clue because that's such a stupid fucking school that I do not care about any other time than when we play them in football. And guess what? They beat us every fucking time. And I don't know why. And then the stupidest person I knew from high school is going to text me, hey, ha ha ha, beat your ass. And the boiled egg of our coach, who, you know, beats who he's supposed to, gets 8 wins a season. Guess what he didn't get this season? 8 wins. Guess who he didn't beat this season? Wake Forest and Duke. So I'm fucking tired of Dave Doeren. He never got the big win. He never got the big season. It's just been boring, boring, boring. I was a senior. We beat Florida State, and guess what? Florida State sucked ass that year. That was his big win. And then everyone's like, oh, he beat Clemson last year. Clemson went like, what, fucking 8-4? We had NJ Morris as the quarterback. Anyone could have beat their dumbasses. I don't know. It's just so goddamn depressing. NC State finally showed that we can do good things in basketball, and we should just give up on football. No one gives a fuck. Like, every NC State fan that gives a shit about football is stupid. I'm sorry. They might as well be an ECU fan. They're so goddamn stupid. That's all I gotta say. Fire Dave Doeren. If Robert and I is the coach on Monday, Dave Doeren should be fired. Drew Corrigan should fire his ass. I'm sorry. This call is going long. And I saw on the message board that the defensive coordinator was going to get promoted. Great fucking job, Dave Doeren. You are so goddamn stupid.
Boiled egg of a coach.
Listen, we're not going to stand for ECU slander on this program now. Come on.
There was a guy who called.
Come on, man.
He called like 3 times. And one of them was before he really saw the replay of the fight. He was talking about, like, he was going on about trailer parks and all this other stuff. And then he called back. He goes, disregard my last message. Yeah, that was on NC State. Sack up. This is from, I don't have a number that's kind of came in as something from a road, from an address that I'm not going to use, but that's just the way Google Voice worked. But here we go.
I don't even know where to begin. Dave's got to go. I mean, you can't lose this game. I just don't know where you go from here, man. It's fucking embarrassing. Year 12, same shit, same play calling. You've got all this talent. You go 6 and 7. Man, he's got to fucking go, dude. It's over.
Whew, all right.
They had no talent on defense. I know State fans, there's like a disc. It's been a year-long thing about, wait, we went in the portal, we got all these players, we made this commitment, and what do we have? You went in the portal and you got a bunch of offensive players who you didn't know how to use and didn't keep on the field.
Which is the problem.
By the way, Hollywood Smothers didn't touch the ball for the first 2 drives of the second half. If you go back and you look at that box score, which is, by the way, is a very specific Dave Doeren problem. He lives to keep his best players off of the field because, God forbid, they get more than 3 reps in a row. If you go back and just, like, don't ever watch the game. Don't watch the game. Just look at the box score. Don't watch the game. Just look at the box score. You'd be like, man, Hollywood Smothers had some kind of game. 15 carries, 139 yards, 2 catches, 42 yards, and a touchdown. Well, he must have been like their best player. He literally doesn't touch the ball in the third quarter of the football game.
Yeah.
How does that happen? It just doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
Put that in your little yellow pad.
It does not make any sense at all.
All right, from a 704 number.
Hey, I know y'all are off, and so I'm probably talking out of a brick wall, but the Reddit boards are crazy, and so I just need to touch grass and talk to somebody on the phone. You know, the difference between Kevin Keats and Dave Doeren is how that game ended, is that to the day that Kevin Keats thought he was coaching his last game at NC State, he came in with a positive attitude, with class, and it shows with his players. And who Dave did, as much as he's an asshole, and it works for the UNC game, it comes out just so poorly and just not being able to handle a tough loss in a well-played game. And I think this is just what it's going to be if we keep him on. As much as I've had to defend him and how things were better than I was, like college football was under Tom O'Brien, this is just a tough way to go. Not only to lose, but then just to have your players act like that. It's just awful.
I think what I appreciated the most out of the sports phone calls over the break were first time, long time, people just saying, you talk about NC State breaking State fans, right? It's like, fine, I'll call the sports phone. But that was probably my favorite one because, like, yeah, man, I just got to talk this out. That's real pack therapy, Joe. Real pack therapy, except no imitations. This came to us from a 9-1. But by the way, that call from a 704 number did hit on something that we talked about earlier, in that Dave is a particular way when you win, specifically the Carolina game, but every other time, it's taken 12 years, but people have finally seen it. This is something you and I have recognized for a long time, but the fans have really started to see, like, hey, man, what's with the attitude? Like, what are we doing here? And I think that's another thing that people have kind of started to get graded on or graded by when it comes to Dave Doeren. All right, this is from a 919.
Emphatically mad that anybody on that field felt like they had a right to fight at Navy Marine Corps Memorial. That's a problem we got to fix with our team. That was some loser shit, I'm going to be honest. Our culture is deteriorating while UNC gets Bill Belichick. Duke is potentially the best stepping school program in the entire country. Oh, and we just lost to I think it was 7-5 ECU squad. And they took home a 31-point loss to Charlotte. So beating UNC doesn't matter anymore. I'm going to be honest. It doesn't. Something's got to change. And a revolving door of offensive coordinators with duct tape put on their mouths really ain't going to help much. But kind of sick of this. Happy New Year, OG. Hope you guys are doing well. And hope you have a good one.
Thank you for bringing up that this is the second game that ended in a fight.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I pointed out after a win, oh, well, you're just being a boomer. Yeah. The setting shouldn't matter. I know what he's saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Show some respect for where you are.
Respect the troops.
Yeah. America. I mean, at least ECU had the decency to fight Navy while they were in Greenville. Not at Navy.
Now, this is interesting you bring this up because I think this is the next call because I didn't label these. I just labeled the area code from the numbers, but I'm pretty sure.
Let me break this off, please.
Yeah.
The real loser shit is planting your flag and doing that shit.
Sure.
When you win 4 years in a row. Okay.
So
that's real loser shit.
So what's interesting? So I think this is the call.
Reading through Dave Doeren's contract, I think its failure to discharge duties will lead to termination for cause with no buyout to pay. And, duties, conduct himself in the program in accordance with state and federal laws, et cetera, ensure student athletes in the program conduct themselves. My question is, would 2 fights in 2 games, including grievously injuring a referee and causing him to bleed on national television, would that meet the standard? Are we looking at a situation where we could potentially fire Dave Doeren, not pay a buyout, and kind of end this 12-year mediocrity run? Very interested to hear what you guys think. Thank you. Love the pod, and I'll call later. Bye.
Okay.
I love this call for a variety of reasons. Okay. One, the main reason why I love it is what you just hinted to. When the flag gets planted and there's a fight, because what are Carolina players supposed to do after you do that other than, all right, let's scrap. Like, I'm not going to let you do that, which all in all, I'm okay with. Because I remember we had this conversation with Bomani Jones. You got to be okay with fighting. I am okay with fighting. I think bottom line, most people are okay with fighting until it gets them what they want. Okay. And this call is exactly that. I've never heard this before after a fight. Never heard it before. Even after the Larry Fedora crap. I just saw two teams celebrating. All right. Never once did I hear a Carolina fan go, hey, is there something in the contract about dereliction of duty and blah, 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 blah. Not a single time did I see that. But I received not 1, not 2, but 3 instances of state fans asking, hey, given the ugly nature of the last 2 games, is there something there to get rid of Dave Doeren? That tells me, man, you're so fed up with that dude. You are looking for any nook and cranny. Are you a lawyer? Like, honestly, are you a lawyer? Are you married to a lawyer? Are you looking did you call Whitaker and Hamer?
First of all,
yeah,
this is not a Mel Tucker situation.
No.
But I appreciate the diligence in reading the contract.
My goodness.
Second of all, you can thank Debbie for that. Those contracts were rewritten at a time after the Mark Gottfried NCAA issues.
Yeah.
That would give her or the school more latitude to make changes.
I see.
Because remember, during the whole Butch Davis thing at Carolina, while Debbie was still at state and in the ACC and understanding all of that, Carolina had all kinds of ways to get out of it, but it wasn't like explicitly basically written in the contract, hey, the program cratered with the NCAA and you got us in all kinds of problems and we can't fire you specifically for that. Mm-hmm. So she made sure all of that was put into each of those, not only Dave's, but Kevin's as well.
Next one.
OG, I want you guys to talk about something for me. I'm one of those, I think Doeren should have been gone a while ago. You've heard me call in many times about this and other things. But I have 2 things I want you to discuss. Why does Doeren not take Duke, Wake, and East Carolina seriously? He has a losing record to Wake and Duke. I think he's 3-3 now against East Carolina. Could be wrong on that. But clearly we don't take those games seriously. I think Doeren has taken East Carolina a little bit more seriously as of recent, but I knew that we were going to lose this game when he said that we weren't rivals. That's simply not true. The fan base does care about this game. Do we have much to, gain from it in the CFP rankings and everything? Probably not. But we don't treat Wake, Duke, and East Carolina the same way that we do as Carolina. And I don't understand that. And it's ridiculous coming, from the fans. We should take those games seriously. We probably would have had a few more ACC, championship appearances if we'd have taken Duke and Wake seriously. And obviously, Giglio, you talked about that. And the other thing is the fighting. It was kind of cool the first time it happened against Carolina, have some pride on the line, whatever. But, we act like we're the Miami Hurricanes of the 90s and 2000s when the game is over. But when the game is going on, we act like we're the little sisters of the poor. Don't get it. And Doeren's losing control of his players. I don't know if that's NIL. I don't know if that's the state of where the game is. But I'm tired of it as an alum to sit there and watch our team fight at the end of each game. It's embarrassing. Especially when you go 6-7 during the season. You might look past it when you win 9 games, in a year. But for God's sakes, we went 6-7 and we're sitting there fighting East Carolina because somebody stole our towel. Anthony Belton spitting in a Clemson player's face this season. No control. And you probably look past those things when things are good, when you're winning 9 games this season, but I'm not going to look past it when we go 6-7.
That's really it right there,
Yeah, but you shouldn't look past those things.
But you do, though. You do.
I know there's a reality to that, but what I'm saying is you shouldn't.
Yeah. The program, every football program in America that's been running hot, they'll put up with that kind of stuff. You've seen it locally with Chuck Amato. Everything was all great with the glasses and the attitude and all that stuff when they were winning. When they weren't, all that stuff had to go away. Same thing happens now with this season with a losing year, and you end up with this kind of stuff.
I got really bad news.
What's that?
For a lot of these people.
And that is?
Dave's going to be the football coach next year. Their schedule is like 10 times harder next year than what it was.
It's going to be brutal.
Their schedule was an absolute farce this year. Yeah. A farce. They didn't even show up in the 2 games that they needed to show up in. And then they lost. They lost basically all the other games that were on their schedule. Like, I don't even know what to tell you. Next year has real 2-10 potential for NC State.
And it'll make it really easy for whoever the chancellor and the AD to make a decision at that point. We'll see how that all plays out. One last thing about that call and the general attitude of why can't you do this against ECU, Wake Forest, Duke, and things like that, right? First and foremost, the ECU thing is a trap for anybody in the triangle. Carolina's fallen for this trap. NC State has obviously fallen for this trap. They don't take ECU seriously. ECU treats it like the Super Bowl. History repeats itself, okay? Everybody is somebody's little brother in the triangle. I'll just go back to that statement. Wake Forest and Duke, though. What's the common denominator between Wake Forest and Duke versus NC State? And it actually gets back to something you talked about yesterday and we talked about today. Better coaches. Straight up, better coaches. It's not that State doesn't take these teams seriously. It's that Dave Clawson is a better game day coach than Dave Doeren. I don't think I'm speaking out of turn here. Mike Elko, clearly better coach than Dave Doeren in those situations. You got to remember when they lost to Duke under David Cutcliffe. That's when Cutcliffe was running hot. And Cutcliffe, better coach in that situation. And I think that's the part that maybe people don't, maybe they're now kind of coming to this conclusion after more and more evidence comes in. But to say they don't take the game seriously, I think is dismissive.
It's reductive.
It's reductive.
Yeah.
Straight up say, no, Dave Clawson's just a better in-game coach with a better mousetrap that's going to beat you. And obviously Duke has had their moments. It just so happens that State catches Duke when they got their moments with their coaches running hot. And maybe you want to call that old NC State shit? So be it. But that's just the reality of it. All right. So our last State call, again, this one, I took 10 out of the various ones that we had just to kind of get a good representation. Here's the last one.
As long as Dave Doeren is coach, we're going to continue to see small market NIL donations and small market NIL results. I think a large part of that is due to State coming out and with their coaching staff or media, whatever. Oh, ACC championship or bust this year for State this past season. We can make the playoff. No. And then you see schools like Arizona State and Indiana who they just went out and did it. They didn't try and create this false narrative of hype and, smoke screen, whatever you want to call it. But who wants to donate to NIL where, one, the players can just sign a deal and then leave anyways, but 2, for another 7-5 season. And let's be honest, whether it's 1 season, 3 seasons, 5 seasons, if Bill Belichick is the coach at UNC, what are the odds NC State's going to beat them on a year-by-year basis?
To me, those are two separate conversations.
Yeah, I would also caution against the new coach equals suddenly an outpouring of NIL money. NC State's real path forward is NCAA reform.
Mhm.
NC State needs contracts. They need a salary cap. These are all things that NC State needs. And too bad. It's just too bad. All those years. You know, I just wish at some point they had somebody, I don't know, maybe like at the presidential or do they have a chancellor at NC State? Man, I just wish if only they had someone who had any kind of in at the NCAA, you know, like had an actual voice in the whole process, maybe even voted on who the president would be and wouldn't be. And it was part of like a whole special, like, I don't know, like a board of directors or something like that. Like, man, I just wish poor old NC State had a voice in all of this. You know, if they hadn't been shut out by Big Bad Carolina and John Swafford and Jim Delaney with the Big Ten, man, if only NC State had some sort of representation. If only.
Can we get odds on Dave Doeren for next year? No, those aren't in yet. Fair enough. Shout out to DraftKings. You can check them out right now with all of the football, all of the hockey, all of the basketball. It really is the most wonderful time of the year. And you can get in all that hoops, football, and hockey at DraftKings Sportsbook in the season of giving. It's not over yet. Shout out to Three Kings Day. I used to get gifts on Three Kings Day.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. I always enjoyed that. I'm going to take January 6th back. So Three Kings Day, let's go. Provide what? Mirth? What else? What
frankincense?
Frankincense and myrrh?
Yeah.
Frankincense. And I bet you.
Why are you always getting biblical on these gifts on me?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's the old Catholicism coming out.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm going to bring you the fourth wise man. The fourth wise man brought a phone with a DraftKings Sportsbook app on it and say, hey, Joseph,
Fade Georgia.
Buddy.
Stop betting on Georgia.
Stop betting on Georgia, Joseph. Okay. I know the man upstairs has a plan for you, but I got a plan on the sports book. Okay. So here's what you do. So here's a gift that's better than frankincense and myrrh from our friends at DraftKings. New customers bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use that promo code OG24. Again, that's code OG24 for new customers. You get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. When you bet just $5, happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
So we have a supersized edition of the OG Mailbag today because we had a lot to get through on that pack therapy. We have one last call for free before we go to the premium side of things for OG fans subscribers. Here we go.
Joe and Joe, thankful for both of you. Want to climb aboard the memory train here. In 83, when State won, I was 13. Didn't quite grasp it, but I knew it was a partying situation. I went to the airport and saw him come back. I went to Reynolds Coliseum for the big time show. And then I was even an extra in the Valvano story. Those were all great memories. This year on my wish list, I just found out I got the subscription for next year to you guys. Look forward to that. Look forward to the extras. And one thing I do have on my list that I would like to somehow fulfill it, if possible, is there should be some sort of golf day with Giglio and family. Because I sure would like to pick Giglio and his son's brain on how to play golf better. Because they seem like they know what they're doing. Maybe not, but I sure would like to play with them. Give me a shout sometime. And just remember, y'all are the best damn podcast around. And don't forget it. Go Wolfpack. Fuck Carolina.
I love that somebody actually gave the gift of OGTriangleMedia.com and OG fans. I love that. I love that.
Brings a tear to my eye. We are certainly welcome to play golf together, but please do not delude yourself into thinking I know what I'm doing.
Please. None of us really know what we're doing.
Please.
None of us really know what we're doing.
But no, we're working on this. We're going to get this going.
Okay.
Because you don't know this.
No, I don't.
No, you don't know this. My actual favorite golf tournament of the year is the Waste Management Open in Phoenix.
Right. Everybody's drunk.
It's actually in Scottsdale. It's right where I stayed.
Yeah.
Okay, I literally stayed right behind it at the Final Four. Shout out to Nate. I want to go to a golf place, potentially in Garner, and I want everyone to go and see how many holes in one we can get. Because we did this. You and I did this, and you were like, even you were like, okay, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So we can play on the 16th hole at TPC Scottsdale. We'll all go out there that night and we'll see, and maybe we'll like throw a quarter in or 50 cents in, and then the person gets the jackpot who gets the whole one.
Okay.
Right?
I'm down.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So that tournament is starts February 6th, which is a Thursday. So maybe February 5th or 6th, we can line something up and we'll do it.
All right. That works.
Yeah.
That works. All right. That's going to wrap it up for the, you guys are getting all sorts of bonus content today on the free side of things, but the rest of it is on the premium side. If you want to listen to the rest of the mailbag, by all means, go to OGTriangleMedia.com. Be an OG fan subscriber. We got some Tar Heel therapy for basketball. Plus, we have an incredible Mac Brown impersonation that I cannot wait.
Did we finally get it?
We got a Mac Brown impersonation, not from our guy, but another one, but it's pretty freaking good. We also have a heartwarming story where that involves the Panthers and cheap tickets, thanks to this podcast. It's all there, plus Y2K memories. Something to add to Joe's existential dread, if you will. All on the other side. So go to OGTriangleMedia.com.